Ooh, there it is. Hey, fellas, your commissioner here coming at you for a little week 14. Of NFL action. Fortunately, Hogs, mercifully, the regular season for the Hogs has come to an end at the hands of another defeat to the Missouri Tigers. What's new, right? I think we're like 0-6 in Columbia lifetime or something like that. Just can't seem to beat them. Snow Game had a chance at the end, had a lead in the fourth quarter for like the third time in the last few years, and just find a way to blow it. Turnovers, penalties, you name it. Just same old bullshit from the Sam Pittman-led Hogs. What are you going to do? So no need to get into that. But anyway, Hogs basketball, hey, they finally came back and won a game against somebody actually halfway decent, potentially, even though they've got like 4 losses now, this team. Probably should have blown them out. This team's still not good. The basketball team's still not good. They're not, right? They'll be lucky to get into the tournament as an 8 or 9 seed, and will be lucky to win that game, let alone a game against a number 1 seed. So, anyways, last video of the regular season, not last video of the season, last video of the regular season, last week of the regular season. This shit just flies by. It just gets faster and faster every year. I don't understand it. It just feels like, yesterday, right? It just feels like just yesterday that we drafted. And to think that this was over 3.5 months ago at this point, right? It's already the first week of December, December to remember, right? Blows my mind, man. It's just going to keep getting quicker and quicker, too. I guarantee it. Had a lot of good participation in the polls for the Denver draft. It seems like, thus far, everybody's going to be able to attend. Hawk hasn't submitted his vote yet. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the only no. We're looking at probably a 4-day trip, Thursday to Sunday. The dates seemed a little concerning to me. I don't know if that was just people not fully participating. Based on, we're going to do the way we normally do it the weekend before Memorial Day. That's my plan. Excuse me. I know most of you don't watch this since we only had 5 views last week, and there's no telling if those were people that were even in the league or not. I know Savoy, a faithful watcher, he watched. I know Plunk watched. Other than that, who knows? Like I said, Blaine used to be one of my faithful watchers. I'm sure he probably is not that anymore. It is weird, right? It's a Saturday recording. It was Thanksgiving week. I get it, right? That's usually one of my lower viewed State of the Unions on the season every year. It is what it is. So, I told myself I wasn't going to complain about the views. Here I am. Can't help myself, right? Because the people I'm talking to are the one, they don't even watch, clearly. Right? So, what are you going to do? But, it's crazy. It's just, I can't believe we're here already. And it's tight. It's tight. And, I wish it seemed to me that the 6th seed playoff spot was going to cause a little bit more contention, be a little bit more of a tighter race. Doesn't appear that that's going to potentially be that way. It's really kind of a 2-team race at this point, potentially just a 1-team race. We'll get into the playoff scenarios after we get through the recap here, but that's what we call a little tease in the biz. Give you a little sample, get you hooked, and then you come back for more, right? So, anyways, let's just go ahead without further ado, get into a recap of last week's games. Start off with our peanut butter filled game of the week. Yeah, this wasn't your year, Christian. No shit, buddy. No shit. Glad you picked this year to do it whenever I went all in on you in all my leagues. That's kind of you. Mighty kind. Anyways, our Kroger peanut butter filled game of the week between, there's Erica, there's my wife. Between keeping the faith in the McConkners, I just dominate 161 to 118. Left some meat on the bone, too, to be quite honest. Obviously, McCaffrey goes down early in the second quarter. Looked like he was on his way to a resurgent game. He doesn't get tackled by a shoestring. He breaks off a 60-yard touchdown run, and he doesn't get hurt. And I'm feeling very, 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 very good about not only making the playoffs, but competing for a championship. Because it looked like he was maybe finally going to start get rolling. Unfortunately, he did get hurt. I made the decision on Thanksgiving, like I mentioned on Saturday's video, to maybe bench DK because I knew he's probably only going to get about 10 points. That's what he did. He got 11.6. Fortunately, Brock and Bucky combined for over 60 points. I made the wrong call with both of my quarterbacks kind of sucked this week, and Primo, you can't hardly ask for better matchups for these two guys. Baker only scores 18. Herbert scores 13 because the Falcons finally figured out how to play defense, but their offense was inept. Just the worst offense I've ever seen. Looked like Arthur Smith was back in town. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. It just sucks. Obviously, Tracy, I was never going to play him, but, Keenan leaving 25 points on the bench whenever DK gets 11 and a half, it's tough. For JD, really, it was an okay, 120, right? It's okay. Gibbs, obviously, he basically had 12 points all in the first half. It was kind of like Ladd. Ladd had like 20 points in the first half and then nothing else. Gibbs was the same way, 12 points, and then he fumbled, and, that was all she wrote. Aaron Jones got bottled up, really lucky to get to 9 points. He catches a touchdown on a little slip out of the backfield route towards the end of the game. Otherwise it could have been worse for JD. For as bad as it was, it could have been worse. Nico had a really good game. Shakir did nothing in the snow. Hawkinson did nothing. Rashad, just kind of ho-hum 10 points out of your flex. Not terrible, but it's not good either. His bench was nothing, right? He doesn't really have a bench. So, huge win for me. Huge win to get to 7-6. I'm on a 3-game winning streak here to give myself a good shot at being in the playoffs. Been scoring a lot of points the last couple weeks. For JD, he falls to 7-6. He's still very much, he controls his destiny, right? We got 3 teams at 7-6. They control their destiny. They're pretty much, they're all 3 of us are almost, depending, right, are pretty much winning in. If we all win in it, we all can't get in, right? Because that 6 seed rule. We'll get into that when we get into another tease for you. Next here we got doesn't contribute versus the Swamp Donkeys. What looked to be was going to be a blowout going into Monday night. Blaine was sitting at like 110 points, something like that, a little less than 110 points. With only Keenan Njoku left. Craig underwhelmed a little bit, but still 140, solid, respectable showing. He made all the right lineup decisions pretty much. Outside of maybe starting Eli Moore, but you're not going to start him over these other guys, right? Really, Craig's wide receivers kind of disappointed, but Josh was a beast. How the pass to Amari, lateral back to him, how he gets credit for a passing and a receiving touchdown makes no sense in the world to me at all. I don't understand it. I don't get it. People on Twitter were like, oh yeah, of course, duh. Like, maybe I'm just not as big of a football guy as I thought I was, because that just seemed... He didn't catch a pass, right? You should get one or the other. He didn't throw a passing touchdown. He didn't really catch a passing touchdown. He threw a forward pass. It was backward lateral to him. To me, that's just like a rushing touchdown, right? Isn't it? Like he threw a 2-yard pass. He gets credit for that. Lateraled back to him. That's a rushing touchdown now. But instead, he gets credit for a passing and a receiving. That makes no sense to me. And a point for reception. I don't know. That was just weird. If that doesn't happen, honestly, that swings this game. To be quite frank with you, because he. Did they take? Yeah, that's 6 less points for the receiving touchdown. He gets 0.7 less for the receiving yards. He did. So how does he get receiving yards and he doesn't have a reception? He got no credit for a reception, but he gets receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Make that make sense. Make that make sense to me. Because guess what? Craig loses 6 points plus 0.7. He's sitting at 133-ish, and Blaine wins. I mean, listen, that's the way it was scored. That's obviously it, right? I can't change that, but that just seemed really odd to me at the time, and it still seems odd to me now. Wow, and to think that actually did affect the outcome of the game. Could have, in a different. But I guess, he got a touchdown, right? So he should still get credit for a touchdown in some aspect, right? So, but he got double credit, right? So one of those should go away. Yeah, one of those should still have gone away, right? He shouldn't have got a passing, so he doesn't get the passing. 5.7. It would have been close. I still think it would have changed the outcome of this game. Anyways, regardless, I digress. It was a miracle for Blaine to even be in it. 2 touchdowns from Njoku. I mean, he had 9 catches for 52 yards. That's a Wandale stat line if I've ever seen one. Obviously, he loses Taysom for the year, unfortunately for him. Tank did nothing. He left a lot of points on the bench, Blaine. He left Najee on the bench for Pacheco. That would have won him the game. He leaves Adam Thielen on the bench instead of Taysom or Tank. That cost him the game, right? But who cares, Blaine? Right? I mean, who cares for him? He's 5-8. Craig's at 7-6. This game meant a hell of a lot more to Craig than it did to Blaine because Blaine still has the 3rd most points scored in the league, and the only 2 that are above him are, have records that they're going to be in no matter what. They're not at risk for falling to that 6th seed automatic qualifier. So. This is huge for Craig to win. I mean, Craig lost this game and he fell to 6-7. That path, I mean, he basically would have had to win and get some help to get in. Now he controls his destiny for the most part. There's still a chance where he wins next week and he doesn't get in, but it's slim. I really think if he wins next week, if Craig wins next week, he's in, right? Or this week rather, he's in. So again, I keep teasing myself. Giving away the lead. Next year, Nick had one of his best games of the season, 152 to the hapless father figures, 103 the absentee father figures to get to 6-7. I mean, Nick has these third lowest points for in the league. He's not winning any tiebreakers. He's not winning the automatic qualifiers. I mean, he's done. He's eliminated. Point blank. Ford also point blank bang eliminated. He is also pretty much safe from horse ass as well, which I'll break down in a little bit of detail coming up. I mean, for the most part, there's not really much to break down. I mean, rips. I'll save that. But yeah, I mean, Tua has been great. Somehow, they got their ass beat pretty much. But I mean, since he's at 35, 43, and 40, right? I think I talked about this on Saturday. But Kamara was good. Ertz was okay, but everybody else on his team was in single digits. You're not going to win many football games that way. I mean, like I said, he's lucky that Tua did what he did, trying to come back against Green Bay, because this could have been an 80-point week, certainly. And for Nick, just a solid. I mean, pretty much every player on his team, no super standouts, but just consistent up and down the board. I mean, pretty much everybody on his team averaged 20 points except Garrett Wilson, who he's a garbage man. He's been really bad the last few weeks. But he doesn't start Mark Andrews again, but that didn't really cost him that much. But yeah, I mean, good effort for Nick. He's certainly probably not at risk of getting the bitch boy in the toilet bowl playoffs, but his team's done. So he's out of the playoffs. I think for is this the third straight year now? Third year in a row for Nick to miss the playoffs. Whew, how the mighty have fallen, right? This used to be a former all-time great, right? Next we got the Golden Path, who somehow has beaten the number 1 and the number 2 seed the last 2 weeks. 142 to 115. One of Hawks. Hawk kind of looking like early season Hawk a little bit. He's struggled. Hawk struggled a little bit the last couple weeks. 119 and 115 respectively. He was able to turn one of those into a win, but he didn't have the the Bayou Bengals, right? They were on bye. It was going to be an uphill battle for him to try to persevere through that and get a W. No, he did have the Bayou Bengals. I'm sorry, that was 2 weeks ago. He didn't. Just really Kittle and Disley combined for 2 points. Basically, Disley had a goose egg, and Kittle could just get nothing going in the snow with limp arm, limp dick Brock Purdy. He's obviously didn't start Westbrook Akine. All this guy does is catch touchdowns. He'll start him next week or this week rather, and he'll have a probably vintage 5-point performance with no touchdowns. Really saw. Jaden Daniels 36 from him. Monty had 20 points almost. Higgins had 20. Devontae had 20. Hopkins had 15. Really good. This guy, for some reason, Savoy's still carrying 3 quarterbacks. Why he's doing that is beyond me. C.J. Stroud should have been cut a long, long time ago. He's quarterback 15 on the season. His highest point total in any game this year is 38. That was back in week 4. Since then, he's basically been averaging 20 points basically a week. Not good. So, if you don't start him against Jacksonville when he had his best game, I don't know when you start him. It's granted, he made the right decision. Obviously, Jaden's been playing much better, but for Savoy, he's 5-8. Hawk falls to 8-5 and kind of leaves that door cracked open. If Hawk had won this game, he pretty much would be locked into the 2 seed and have that first round bye. Tradition, as so often happens in this league. Still possible for that to happen. He wins next week. He's got it. With a loss, though, he could fall out of that potentially. And wouldn't that be something? Right? Wouldn't that be something? Very unlikely that's going to happen, but it's possible. It's possible. You got an owner there that's lurking, only scored about 15 points less than him. So, stranger things have happened. But for Savoy, this win basically just cemented himself as being, and especially really the last 2 resurgent weeks that he's had to get over that 1,600 point threshold. Rip meanwhile has 1488, so he's good. He could lose next week. Rip could win. He's not gonna lose the points tiebreaker. So again, Savoy these last 2 weeks. From looking like the presumptive favorite for horse ass, has found a way to fight, scratch, and claw to get his way out of it. And I damn sure guarantee I know what he's going to do this week. He's going to drop a big fat pile of shit whenever certain owners need him to desperately need him to win, and probably score 70 points. And just embarrass himself and his family, and I'm sure it's probably not going to come back to bite any other owners who might potentially need him to win. So, let's see. Next here we got the battle of some 2 top teams, 182 to 148. Dirty Birds prevail over Kickers Lives Matter. Connor has cemented himself as the number 1 overall seed. He's locked up the points for scoring title for this season. So, he already gets an extra, what is it? I can't remember, $50, $100 bonus, something like that, whatever it is. Might be even more than that. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that money stuff anymore, to be quite honest. I hated paying Connor. I really did. Really towards the end, especially the end of his 3-peat, I really just despised paying him any money. You can ask him. It took a while to get his final, or his most recent championship winnings. But whatever. He's great, right? 182. This guy's he's cruise control. He's cruise control. That's what he ought to change his team name to. CC, cruise control. Connor Plunk. CP, cool people crew. Cool people crew, right? Connor Plunk, cruise control. the signs are all around us, folks, right? The signs are all around us. And honestly, good week for Duncan. I mean, I think he's the third highest scoring team this week, or last week rather. Hate that for fourth highest scoring team. Hate that he wasn't able to parlay that into a win. If he did, he'd be sitting in. He would control his destiny to getting that 2 seed and getting that bye. And really, he would have potentially left the door cracked open for Hawk to have gotten a bye as well still, and for Plunk to not have clinched the ones. Well, actually, he still would have clinched, right? I think so. No, because he would have been. No, they both would have been 9-4. They both would have been 9-4, and then Connor could have lost, and Duncan could have found his way to the 1 seed. How about that? But not to be. I scoffed at the Drake May spot start. Proved to me to be quite the fool. 30 points. He had 60 yards rushing and just a bunch of passing first downs. Those little things add up, man. You get a bunch of passing first downs, they add up. He had 13 of those suckers. That's about 6.5 points. Jacobs has been consistently good. McLaurin's been on such a heater. Tyreek caught a fluke touchdown. Kelsey's good. He leaves BTJ on the bench and Jacoby on the bench. They both had great games. Starts Ridley instead, starts Auten instead. I'm sure that will change going forward. But yeah, I mean, what's there to say about Connor? Not a single. This is the lowest point score, had 16.8 points. Nobody had more than 30. Nobody had over 30, but I mean, Evans had right at 30. McBride had 25. London had 20. Jefferson had 20. Achane had 22. Mixon had 26. Hurts had. I mean, it's just tough, man. That's going to be tough to beat. It's going to take a lot of guys underperforming. He's got a Dowdle on the bench who's been good too. I mean, he's got 3 high-quality starting running backs. He's got 4 or 5, 4 really high-quality starting wide receivers. He's got one of the best tight ends in the league. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. There's a reason he's 10-3, folks. There's a reason why he has more points by about the second closest team has almost 200 points less, like 180 points difference. I mean, it's a lot. That's a lot of points. That's almost, some people, it takes them 2 games to get that many points, right? Like somebody like All You Need Is Love, our dog shit, horse ass, throw up all over themselves, going nonverbal, horse shit, horse ass. I can't emphasize enough. Horse ass. Team of the week. All You Need Is Love, Mr. Ian Ripple. The guaranteed horse ass for this season. Don't even need the final week of the regular season to determine this, folks. This guy is the only team sitting at 4-9. It's on a 2-game losing streak. Okay. He has about 50-ish points. Doing some rough math, about 50-ish points less than the second lowest team in Josh Ford. So in a world, Josh Ford does love to score very low, and Rip has proven that he can score high. So it is not impossible. It is not improbable. It's not impossible. It is improbable that Ford could still find his way to horse ass back-to-back, by the way, back-to-back. Extremely unlikely. Savoy has the bar cleared. Even if he loses, he has that, and Rip wins. Savoy is 120 points clear of Rip, right? Ford is technically within striking distance, but it'd be a big lift. It would be a big lift, I think, for that to happen. I think very much we're looking at the old Ripster, and I can't wait. And I'll get to you, Wilson, here in a second, but I've got to rag on Rip's team here a little bit. I'm sure you can appreciate that. Probably, I think, another one of my faithful watchers, Wilson. 5.5 from Brees, garbage. Hurt. You don't have any better options on the bench, really. Don't blame them. Chuba Hubbard, 3.3, garbage. Tampa Bay, despite what the numbers say, Tampa Bay has always had a really good run defense the last several years, and that continues. I don't, as long as Vita Vea is playing, good luck running against Tampa Bay. Jameson Williams, the gambling man, 11 points. Cooper Kupp, 4.7. Old, washed up, over the hill. Christian Watson, bum, irrelevant, 9.7 points. Kyle Pitts does not like to enjoy playing football. He doesn't enjoy it. He's not good at it. He is checked out. It's not a good team. It's not a good offense. It's not a good franchise. It's not a good organization. 0 points from Kyle Pitts. Jawan Jennings, 10 points. Amir Abdullah on the bench, 8. Madison, irrelevant. One of the big free agent pickups earlier in the season. What's he done? 7 points, 11 points, 10 points, 4 points, 10 points, hurt. Maybe we'll be back finally against a stout Tampa Bay run defense. ETN, bum, 9.8 points. Rip's got it pointed exactly. I'm really stunned that he didn't start Addison after that monster game he had last week on his bench. But 10 points from him really wouldn't have made much of a difference. He probably would have slotted them in for Jennings or Watson, and we're talking negligible difference there. So, Jordan Love was really the only person on his team in the starting lineup that gave a shit. 28 points. Other than that, it's just dog shit. It's just dog shit. Nobody on his bench really inspires a lot of confidence. Nobody in his starting lineup really inspires a lot of confidence. I think that this is a guy who's probably going to lose again next week and fall to 4-10 and further cement his spot and legacy as a horse ass. And I can't wait to see what kind of punishment we cook up for him. Now, the other side of this coin, Wilson, obviously, he changed his name midweek here from Flo's Ashamed to Flo's Fury is back. That's on the heels of Jerry Jeudy's behemoth performance, 44.5 points on Monday night. What am I going to say, right? Some owners didn't want me to be fake humble about the trade, right? Jerry Jeudy for Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor stinks. Jerry Jeudy stinks. They're looking at the names, right? They're not looking at the numbers. They're not looking at the potential. They're not looking at the production, right? How many points did Keenan Allen score in my starting lineup this week? 0. All right. How many points did Saquon score in my starting lineup this week? Right. He scored 20.7. So basically, Wilson this week outscored my players that I got by about 45 points. Okay, JT had a better game. Jerry Jeudy had an infinitely better game, right? Really, Wilson was looking like he was below 100 points. I certainly thought that Surtain was going to be on Jeudy the whole game, and they would just lock him up. But there was just vast stretches of the game where Jeudy was just running literally wide open, nobody within 20 yards of him. Nobody within 20 yards. Even James can make those throws, right? But it's a little fugazi, right? Lamar had a good game, right? That's his guy, Lamar. But Swift, not great. Mooney did nothing. Samuel just continues to just be an extreme disappointment. Laporta had those 2 touchdowns, right? But only 2 touchdowns, only 15 points. That's tough to do. Scantling had another touchdown. That's all that guy does as well. The bench is not good, right? Cuts Noah Brown, cuts Eckler. Lockett wasn't good. Gesicki. So, for Wilson, congrats. He gets to 6-7. Not going to make the playoffs. Even if he wins this week and somehow finds his way to 7-7. He doesn't. Well, so let's go ahead and get into that, right? Let's get into playoff scenarios. So I told you a little bit, right? So Nick eliminated, 100% done. There's just no world where Nick makes the playoffs. Okay. Golden Path out. Father Figures out. Rip out. Wilson. Is there a way for Wilson to make it? If Wilson can make it, I think, here. Wilson can make it if what he needs to have happen, he needs Craig to lose, he needs JD to lose, he needs to win, and he needs to outscore Craig by about 35 points. Okay. And then Wilson could get in as the 5 seed. Okay. Basically, we got 3 teams at 7-6. Myself, Craig, and JD. I'm up on points on. I've got about 85 minus 15 is 70. So I'm about 70 points on Craig. Pretty unlikely that gets covered. Possible, unlikely. I'm up 100 points on Wilson. So me losing and Wilson winning, Wilson's not going to beat me in a tiebreaker. He's not going to score 100 more points than me, right? Kiss of death, right? Probably right there. Watch it happen. For that 6 seed, again, the 6 seed's basically, it's a 2-horse race. Blank can win, blank can lose. Doesn't really matter for him. What he needs to do is just score as many points as possible. That's his number one priority. That's been his number one concern over the last couple of weeks. Njoku might not seem like much. He didn't get the win. Njoku having a 20 whatever point game on Monday night is huge, because if Njoku messed around and only got like 8 points, that margin between myself and Blaine just got a lot thinner. Right now it's sitting at, like I said, it's sitting at about, there's 15, there's another 15, it's about 30 points. It's about 30 points, a little less. That's possible to be made up in a week, right? Just imagine if it was 20 points. Just imagine if it was 10 points, right? Now we're really talking, right? 30 points is a lot. Blaine's got a good team. My team is going to struggle this week, I think. So I don't feel great about my odds of beating him out. And, honestly, it's pretty much, I don't know that I've ever seen somebody who scored this many points have this bad of a record. I mean, Blaine has had extremely bad luck when points against all season. He has the most points against by a good margin. I mean, by 80 points almost is the next closest team in points against him. I mean, he has gotten shafted in the schedule this season. He's had the schedule of a back-to-back champion. I tell you that. He's had the schedule of a back-to-back champion, and he's paid the price. But I certainly think that he deserves to be in, and he should be in. JD pretty much, he has to win and he has to get help, right? Because right now JD's sitting at the 6th seed. JD's points for is 150 less than Blaine. It's almost astronomical. 130 less? No, 200 less. Over 230 points less, right? And that's kind of a great, this season is working out almost great of having this rule in place. So JD needs to win, and he needs one of Craig or myself to lose to be able to slide up to the 5th seed. If we both lose and JD wins, then bam, he's the 4th seed, right? For Craig, he's kind of in the same boat, right? He could win. JD wins, he's going to own the tiebreaker against JD. He wins and he's in, I think, for Craig, pretty much. It's a win and in scenario for him. Regardless of what JD does, regardless of what I do, he fully controls his destiny with the points for, in my opinion. I'm in the same boat, right? Now we start talking about losses, right? Craig loses. He needs me to lose as well. I think if Craig loses, I think it's going to be tough for him to get in, to be honest with you. I just don't see that. Yeah, I think if Craig loses, he's and JD wins. Now Craig can get in if JD loses and Craig loses. Then he's still in, right? With a JD win and a Craig loss, I think Craig's out. Because Because even if I lose too, I'm pretty sure if he loses, he's not going to cover 70 points against me. For myself, like I said, I'm basically out if Craig and JD both win and I lose. They would slide up to the 4th and the 5th spot, and then I'm having to rely on Blaine or covering the points against Blaine. Which again, if I lose, what's the odds of that happening? Not good, right? So with a loss and wins from JD and Craig, and Blaine having a respectable point total, Blaine outscoring me, or me not outscoring Blaine by 30 or more points. Blaine's in, Craig's in, JD's in. I'm out, right? I'm out. So to feel good and confident, I've got to win. I've got this marked on my calendar as a must win. I've left up anytime I need help from other people on the final week. Typically, I don't do the job myself. That's anytime I do have a chance to control my fate, I don't do it. Okay, point blank. And anytime that I need help from other people to overcome that, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen for me. Okay, so it's scary. Now, just as easily as I could fall out of the playoffs, I could still get in, or I could still get a bye. Even I could still find a way to work my way up to the 2 seed. It requires Duncan and Hawk both losing, which if I win this week, Duncan loses. If Hawk loses this week and I score 15 points more than him, I'm the 2 seed. I could be the 2 seed and I could be the 7 seed, sitting my ass on the sidelines out of the playoffs. Technically the 6, but Blaine would have more points than me, and he's in. And that's something. Talk about the range of outcomes. I've got the biggest spread. Craig doesn't have any shot of getting up to the 2 seed. JD obviously has no shot of getting up to the 2 seed. For Duncan, like I said, he could fall with a loss. He could fall out of the playoffs. Let's just say he loses. Craig wins. JD wins. JD would probably be out. Yeah, Duncan would still stay in. He would kick JD out on the tiebreak. So I think Duncan's clinched. He's got the star by his name. He's clinched. He can't fall out, but it would be, he could fall down to that 5 seed. He could. It's possible. So it's a huge game for him too. I mean, there's still a chance that he could get the 2 seed still. He could get a first round bye with a win and a Hawk loss. So, anyways, that's kind of, there's obviously different seeding scenarios that could happen, but hopefully that gives y'all a somewhat clear picture of the playoff scenario. So like I said, we're looking at myself, Craig, JD, and Blaine. There's 3 spots. There's 4 teams. One's going to be on the outside looking in, and based on wins and losses and points for, it could be a number of teams. But really, the team that doesn't have to require wins or losses is Blaine. Blaine just needs to score within 30 points of me, and he is in, guaranteed, regardless of what anybody else does. So regardless of what he does record-wise. So personally, I think it'd be pretty funny if it's 5-9, and hopefully it's not. He's 5-9 and makes the playoffs, and hopefully that's not at my expense. So, anyways, let's go ahead here and get into a preview of this week's matchups. I hate to. Should I be back to back? I can't. Can't. Yeah, we'll go with that one instead. Start off with Keeping the Faith versus Kicker Lives Matter. I'm projected to win 157-146. Duncan's got a couple buys this week. No McLaurin, no Stevenson. He does have BTJ and Myers in his starting lineup. He's forced to start Tajay Spears, who I'm sure will go nuclear after not doing anything all season. But a lot of red for him. I've got a lot of questionables on my side. Bucky didn't practice today. Ladd apparently was limited. Keenan didn't practice. DK, the practice report still hasn't come out for them yet, so I'm not sure. Bucky says he's going to play. I was stunned. It seemed like Ladd was going to for sure be out this week. The fact that he was at practice at all today was interesting. I do have an insurance policy in Palmer just in case. I've got Michael Wilson just in case. It does seem like Bucky is going to play. I really need him to play because without it, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I think Duncan he's had a pretty good, he's had down weeks, right? Obviously he had his third highest point total on the season. This is the alpha and omega, right? I mean, Duncan started off the season dominating me, 140-94. I could very easily see this game going that way, to be quite honest with you, given the potential of the starting lineup I could potentially have to roll out there. And it's a huge game for both of us. We're both potentially playing for a bye. I'm still playing for my playoff spot, my playoff life. Duncan's got that secure. It's good. My old Little Rock buddy, my old floating buddy. Let's see I didn't have Christian McCaffrey. That was the Christian McCaffrey game. Wow, does my roster look different? The lineup I started, quarterback gone. I only started one running back. He's gone. One of my starting wide receivers, dead. Another one gone. Yeah. My roster from week 1 to now looks extremely different than what it did. So hopefully that helps. And then for Duncan, I mean, his roster is almost the exact same. I mean, he's really not made many pickups this season. He's not made any trades. He's been rolling with his guys, and hey, it's got him to the position that he's in. And it's kind of the conversation that I had last week, right? Is that going to eventually be the Achilles heel for some of these teams, some of these guys? I think it's going to be close. I think Duncan's got a pretty good shot at getting to his projection. I think that I'm going to struggle to get to 160, to be quite honest, even if everybody does play. But we got to keep the faith. We'll go with myself on that one, reluctantly, but we got to keep the faith. Next here, we got Swamp Donkeys and All You Need Is Love. Again, this game really, it doesn't mean much. I mean, Blank's projected to win 150-135. He's got some tough matchups this week. I still like him to probably get at least 120 fairly easily. At least. I mean, a 150 I think might be a touch high. I think he probably still settle in the 140-ish range, but we'll go with Blaine in that one. Next, we got a couple of. It's a good slate here for Week 14. A lot of the games don't necessarily mean a whole lot, but it's some good matchups now. I mean, for Father Figures versus Flo's Fury, Ford's projected to win 142-114, which is quite laughable that Ford's projected to score that many points. He's got a lot of his bench guys on bye. He doesn't really have any starting lineup decisions to make at all this week. He better pray that Keon Coleman is finally back this week. Devontae should be back. He better pray that CeeDee Lamb plays this week. That's a Monday night game too. Scary. He probably also just drop Troy Franklin and pick up like Tolbert or Cooks or somebody to give yourself some insurance. That's some free advice for you. Obviously, Wilson doesn't have Jonathan Taylor. He doesn't have Lamar Jackson. That's tough. I'll go with Ford in that one to find a way. I think it's going to be an ugly, slow-scoring game. I think Ford's starting lineup, as it is right now, is not going to be what it is come Sunday. Next, we got the Golden Path McCockners, a game with playoff implications on the line. JD's projected to win 146-139. Obviously, Savoy is without his Kiswatch Hadarach, whatever how you say that. No Jaden Daniels this week. He's rolling out the lifeless corpse that is Matthew Stafford against Buffalo's a team that's firing on all cylinders right now. It's going to be tough for him to overcome, I think, with the matchups that he's got. I think it's going to be tough for him to overcome. I think that JD finds a way to win this week. I think he started 2 Buffalo wide receivers. Wow, Shakir and Amari. Yeah, no Nico this week. No Dobbs this week for JD. No Gibson. Yeah, that's tough. I think JD is going to be in for a tough one. But Savoy's basically been winning games because of Jaden Daniels' magic the last couple of weeks. And without Jaden Daniels, can he keep that magic going? I'm skeptical. So we'll go with JD in that one, although I'm rooting for you, Savoy. But again, like I said, what does Savoy do whenever you need him most? Avatar. He vanished, right? He's gone. So next we got the Dirty Birds of War, the two-tone hog mollies. This is basically just a glorified bye week, an additional bye week for Connor. He's not playing for anything other than pride, other than being able to rub it in one of his big rivals' face. So I know this team and this franchise will take this game serious. They'll act like it's week 1, like they're 0-0. He's projected to win 165 to 138. I think that this team will take pride and pleasure in trying to embarrass the Hog Mollies. No Andrews, no Bo Nix, no Brian Robinson for Nicholas. Obviously, Connor's down Joe Mixon. Other than that, it's a fully locked and loaded lineup. I think Connor embarrasses Nick in that one. So, all right, and then that brings us to our game of the week. It's a big one. Big time game. It's a big one. It's a hot one. It's getting cold outside, but it is still hot in the fantasy world. Bring That Wood League. Our Mike's Hot Honey game of the week, infused with chiles, the original, established in Brooklyn in 2010. Mike's Hot Honey. It's made with honey and chili peppers. That's it. Simple ingredients, right? Actually, has a little bit of vinegar in there too, of course. Bottled in the U.S. of A., but the honey is outsourced from Brazil. Don't feed this honey to children under 1 year old. It might kill them. It's got a lot of sugars, 32%. No added sugars, though, so it's all natural. You got to love that. It's got some carbs. But, honestly, this isn't... I've started to dabble in the hot honey on my pepperoni pizza. This one, I think it's not my favorite. I think I had some really good hot honey in St. Louis, right outside the stadium. I can't remember the name of the place. It was some female name. The restaurant was named after some woman's name, right? But, and I've tried to chase that experience ever since. I haven't gotten close. Maybe it's because I was so drunk that week. That could have been part of a contributing factor. And maybe some other substances, potentially. Legal, of course. But, enjoyed on pizza, fried chicken, cheese, tea, salad, ice cream, fruit, roasted veggie, seafood, yogurt, ribs, oatmeal, cocktails. Interesting. So, anyway, Mike's Hot Honey, the official hot honey for now. Of the Bring That Wood Fantasy Football League. So, cheers. Huh. Yeah. It's sweet, isn't it? I think it's almost a little too sweet. Maybe we should try the hotter version, but it is still kind of a little hot. So, anyways, hot matchup. Hot honey. Doesn't contribute. Living on Burrow time. Hawks projected to win 138 to 136. Tight. Craig currently does not have a flex in there, so once he does, his projection should shoot up about another 10 points or so. He should be projected to win 146 to 138. I guess he didn't assume that he wasn't going to be the game of the week. How foolish of him. You guys need to always stay prepared. You know that. For both of these guys dealing with some buys, no Zay Flowers for Craig, no Josh Downs, no Derrick Henry for Hawk. Battle of the quarterback, you got Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Both guys projected for about 40 points. The way Josh Allen has been playing, he's the number 5 quarterback in fantasy. Wow, how about that? I did not realize that. I thought he'd been better. Burrow's just, even whenever he's not been good, he's been good. You know what I mean? He still was able to put up 30 points in a tough divisional matchup against Pittsburgh. I think he ought to have his way with Dallas. I'm going to give the edge to Burrow in that one. Battle of the running backs. You got Kyron Williams and James Conner versus James Cook and Tank Bigsby. That's the best that Hawk can do this week with no King Henry. Yeah. As much as it pains me to say, I'll have to go with Craig in that one. I hate Kyron Williams. You guys know that, but yeah, I mean, it's just, you can run all over Buffalo. I think that Kyron's probably going to have a 25-plus point game, and I think that James Conner should have a good bounce-back game as well. They played Seattle yet this year? They haven't, have they? They have. When? Yeah, they played them 2 weeks ago. That's so weird. It's almost like our league sometimes, where you play a team and then you play them again like 2 or 3 weeks later. It seems like a really odd scheduling quirk. Didn't do great against Seattle a couple weeks ago, but we'll still go with him. I just don't think the Hawks going to really get any sort of relevant production at all out of Bigsby. I just think that whole offense is just kind of gone. Battle of the wide receiver, A.J. Brown, JSN, and Eli Moore versus Westbrook-Ikine, Jalen Waddle, and Jamar Chase. I'll go Eli Moore, questionable. Limited practice, probably will play. Had a good game. He's been solid. Didn't do great against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago when they played. 5 points. I don't expect much out of Westbrook-Ikine. I'm going to give the edge to Craig just slightly. Just as close. Just slightly, I think. Battle of the tight end, you got Kittle versus Kraft. We'll go with Kittle on that one. And then Battle of the flex, likely to be Quentin Johnson or Dalton Kincaid potentially if he's back healthy. Although, more likely, yeah. I mean, I would probably start Kincaid, right? Versus Xavier Legette, who's just been, he's been consistent and solid, kind of what you need from your flex. So we'll go, I'll push that one. I think I'll push it regardless of who Craig ends up starting. Really, if Hawk's going to have a chance to win this one, he needs to win the battle of the wide receivers. He needs Jamar to ball out. He needs Westbrook-Ikine to catch another touchdown. I think he's got a chance at winning. He needs to. I mean, he wins and he holds on to that 2 seed with a loss. That opens up the door for Duncan or myself, really the winner of that game, to potentially jump him and move into that 2 seed. So if he wants to buy, he's got to take fate into his own hands and win this game. And conversely, like I said, if Craig loses, it's going to be potentially a challenge for him to get in. He's going to need some help. He's going to need JD to lose, at least, for him to be able to have a shot at getting in. So that being said, that's all I got this week, fellas. It's going to be a fun, exciting Week 14. Hopefully we have some good games to watch as well to lend itself to this great slate of games we've got. Good luck to all those playing for something this week. And, for the rest of you, have some fun this week, right? Nobody can really play spoiler. I mean, the way the schedule worked out, I mean, you got relevant teams playing against relevant teams other than Savoy and JD, right? So enjoy this last regular season week, fellas. For most of us, we've only got potentially two games that matter the rest of the season, a lot of us. So enjoy it, embrace it, soak it in. More news will be coming in the coming weeks for Denver draft as we look forward to the future. So anyway, good luck again this week, fellas. Stay safe out there, and as always, woo pig.